African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a chilly, grey, overcast start to the day. We're on the search for the royals, and this is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful sunrise safari. It is a little bit overcast and a little bit chilly, but it promises to be a great day. I don't think the clouds are going to hang around too long, and so I think we're going to in for a absolutely stunning day. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Ferg, and we are, like I said earlier, going to go and try and follow up on the royals. So we're going to go look for any signs of them. I had Shongile last night, so I'm going to go back to where I had her and try and see if maybe she's come back into Djuma and whether or not Karula or Hosanna have joined her. But before we do that, I've just stopped here because we noticed a very interesting little thing on a tree. So on my right hand side here, I have a beautiful little white egg case. Now you can see it in the middle of the tree there. That white egg case is from a praying mantis. So there it is there. Now it just looks like a sort of feathery white growth, but it's called an Uthika, and an Uthika is formed by a praying mantis. They spin this intricate web and thousands of eggs inside there, and over the course of the next few days, so they will start to grow, and eventually they will hatch as adult mantis and come out, as little baby mantis, and come out and walk around. It'll be really, really amazing to see. But isn't that incredible? You wouldn't think that that's been spun by a mantis. You would have thought that that would have been a spider or something like that. But indeed, it's from a little praying mantis. Well, a big praying mantis, because that's a big Uthika. So Uthikas vary in size quite a bit, but that is quite a large one. Right, enough about our insects. Let's see if we can now go and see if we can find any tracks for little Shongile. Now, I'm hoping she came north and that caused her brother and her mother to make an appearance as well. But so far, I haven't picked up any tracks yet, but I know that she likes to use the fire break, so we're just heading towards that area. And while we do that, there is one other that is out here at the moment, and that is Miss Taylor McCurdy, and she would like to say hello.
Good morning, everybody, and of course welcome to Safari Live. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Craig, and we are out on a live safari searching for animals far and wide. Now remember, you are able to interact with us, and well, if you want to send any questions or any pictures or anything along those lines, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and that is the way that you can get hold of us. Now we of course are looking for all sorts of animals, and during the pre-drive before the show started, I had said to you that we were just going to bumble until we stumbled across something, but it seems as though Taxon has managed to stumble across something before me, which is wonderful. He's picked up on some lion tracks. Now, I'm uncertain as to how many females, if there's males, if there's cubs, which pride it could possibly belong to, but what I said that I would do is that I would go all the way down and around towards Cheetah Cut Line, onto Gari Main, and work our way back west. And Tax is going to try and stick on the tracks. You know what these cats are like, both leopard and lion, and even the cheetah. They're able to covering such large distances in such a short period of time. So it is essential that we check the boundaries to make sure that they haven't crossed out. Otherwise you'll spend most of your day searching and chasing for ghosts. So we don't want to be chasing ghosts this morning. We want to actually find you some animals. So that's what I think we'll do. We'll try and head towards Cheetah Cut Line as quick as we can. And also, the elephant tracks that I was following have now popped back up on the road. So I was going the wrong way. So actually going towards Cheetah Cut Line too. So who knows, we might get both some lions and some elephants. That's all I want to see today. It's just lions and elephants, and perhaps the McCurdy herdie and the wildebeest herd. And Craig is still, I think Craig's still searching for the pangolin. He always asks for a pangolin every time we go out on drive. One day, Craig. one day. Today, I don't know if today will be the day though. Now Beth, you're wondering, I'm just going to shorten this, basically, how do you age and track when you haven't got any rain, dust or insects or anything like that walking over the track? So Beth, what you can sometimes see, but you really need a fine soil. This obviously helps you, the type of substrate that the animal is walking over. But for instance, with hyenas and with lions, if you look very carefully, sometimes you can actually see their hair from their feet in the tracks too, and that will help you, because that you won't see for very long. It's really just fine, tiny little lines, like almost like you see the drag marks from the quills of a porcupine. They're not something that stay out in the open for very long. It normally also is an indication that it's a fairly fresh track. Again, it depends on the substrate. So if it is very, very sandy, you probably wouldn't see something like that. But if it is fine dust, it would quite easily leave a track. But you can just see the outline of the track very, very clearly. And what I also do is I test it. So I'll put on a similar type of surface, I'll stand in it, and I'll look and see if my track looks obviously it's not going to look like a lion footprint or a hyena footprint, but you get what I mean. You'll sort of see, okay, this is what a brand new clean track looks like, and compare it to one that's on the ground. And you can sort of gauge by that as well. It's not something that you can do once and be an expert at. It takes years and years and years and years of practice of tracking to be able to identify whether a track is really fresh. And then of course the easiest ways is when you start looking for insects, if they crawl through here. Is it windy? Any bits of grass that are perhaps blown down and gone through the track? There's many different ways. But yes, you can genuinely, I find if you're a guide and you've been doing it for a couple of years, you can spot a fresh track relatively quickly. But some tracks preserve really well too, just depending where they are. Often you'll see we're pretty good when we drive in the road. We drive in the middle of the road, and we try not to sort of drive like this, because once you start doing something like this, you're going to create more of a road on the left-hand side. So even if you've got obstacles, it's always better to pick up branches and drive through puddles than try and avoid them. And sometimes when that happens, you'll find that lion tracks are perfectly preserved, and they've caught me out a couple of times where I've looked and gone, these are really fresh, and then said, 5 minutes later, no, hang on, the lions were here a couple of days ago in this exact spot walking through the same area. No, these tracks have just not been driven on, they haven't had any dust covering them, and they can preserve really well. Okay, well, we're going to keep searching. We're going to actually just put foot a bit and head towards a cheetah cut line now, so we can start our search for the lions or for the elephant. But let's go across to Tristan, and he is doing a little bit of tracking of his own.
We are indeed. We're trying to find any signs of these little leopards, and so far no signs at all. There hasn't been a single track that I've seen coming out of Little Gowrie, which is not what I was hoping for, but we shall persevere and just carry on checking a little bit further. Where we are now is an area where they like to move up and down. So this little road that intersects like this is a favorite place for both Shongile and Hosana to cross in and out, as well as Karula, between Little Gowrie and Djuma. So we're going to try and see if maybe they've come this way. Now, I believe we were discussing tracking and tracks, and which one is a favorite to track and which one isn't a favorite to track. Well, I think in terms of tracking, there's two that I like tracking just because they're challenging. So leopard and wild dogs are probably my two favorite to track, just because of the challenges involved with both of them. They both animals, well, the leopard is very shy, secretive. It's a single track generally that you're following. They like to move through quite thick bush, which makes it quite hard to actually keep up with them and find them. Now, that's one side of it. The other one is the wild dogs, because they're just absolutely chaotic. They're all over the place. They're running up and down, so tracks tend to move all over the place, and they tend to be so fast that you have to really track very, very quickly. So it really tests your skill, both of them, in being able to track. And funny enough, when they do the tracking assessments, the leopard is what they measure people on. So when you're doing your qualifications as trackers, you'll do your tracking, and they normally start you off on things like a rhino or even something like elephants, because they are a little bit easier to track than the cats, and so you start off with those, and that'll get you your basic qualification. Then you'll progress and go up onto varying other things, and until you get to leopard. Now when you want to become the highest level of a tracker, you have to track a leopard. You can't track anything else, because they reckon that that's the hardest one to be able to follow, and so you do the tracks and you then qualify or don't. But for me, the dogs are also just as difficult, because on foot, to keep up with them and to move as fast as they're moving is almost impossible sometimes, and so that's why I like both of those. Now in terms of the worst animal to track, I'm not quite sure actually. I don't know if I have a worst animal to track. I pretty much enjoy tracking most animals. Maybe I would say for something like a pangolin would be difficult. I've tracked pangolins before, and it's just they go into holes, and same as aardvarks, and then they just disappear, and so it's frustrating when you're trying to kind of drive along and trying to find those areas, and you find these tracks and then they go into a hole, and you're just like, oh, that's it, you know. So it's a little bit difficult. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio as well, because it sounds like those lion tracks are coming south. So it sounds like those lion tracks are on their way southwards. I want to just check. Aaron, what are the easiest tracks to spot? I would say, Aaron, that the easiest tracks generally are, funny enough, lions. Lions have really big feet, and they like to walk on roads, so they cut the tire track quite easily. And the other one is elephants. Elephants also have a really large foot, so they tend to make a lot of mess over a road, and normally elephants are in groups together. So when you get a herd of elephants moving across a road, there's broken branches everywhere, there's footprints all over the place, so it really is a good, well, an easy one to be able to spot. So them and the lions are probably the two easiest. That's for me at least. I know rhinos are also not too difficult. They also tend to walk down pathways and road sections, so it makes it a little bit easier to be able to find their tracks as well. Now we're just coming up towards Treehouse Dam, which is an area that these leopards like to spend time. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any footprints for them coming back, but that doesn't mean that they haven't sneaked in from somewhere else. So it's always worth checking around where the dam is and making sure that there's no sign of them. And while we don't have leopards at the dam, we do have spotted creatures that are rather tall, and we will get to them shortly. Just want to get round the bend here, but we have a whole group of giraffe, a little journey of giraffe, or should I say a tower, because they're standing still. So if they are moving, they are known as a journey of giraffe, and if they are sitting still, then it is a tower of giraffe. But let's get up onto the dam wall here, because it should be quite pretty from here with the water and the giraffe in the distance. There we go. So you can see that these giraffe are all around the water, and they were here yesterday evening, well, not too far from here, should I say, yesterday evening, and they all look like they're coming down. Now I wonder if we're going to get them drinking. It is the best thing to watch a giraffe drink. Unfortunately, because they've got such long legs and long necks, it's very complicated when it comes to drinking if you're a giraffe, and so to watch them drink is always quite entertaining as they spread those front legs and stretch their necks down just to be able to get to the water itself. But this is quite a nice grouping of giraffe. We've got a big adult female, then we've got the two younger ones, two more females, and I can see another one, so quite a few of them in the area, which is really cool. It's always so nice to have lots of giraffe around and to be able to see quite a few of them. Such a charismatic animal and a sort of very high profile animal, and we sometimes go a few days without seeing them, so when we do get to see them, it's always very, very pleasant. Now you'll see they'll be taking advantage of this cooler start to the day, so because we're not up just yet, it's going to be nice and cool, but give it another hour or two, and that sun's going to be blazing hot, and these giraffe are not going to be able to sit in the open like this feeding off all these trees, and so they'll have to move towards shady areas. So you find with giraffe or many of the herbivores, now is the time that they try and feed as much as possible. They know the predators are starting to slow down, but it is still cool enough to expend quite a bit of energy traveling, trying to find the food that they need. And so we're going to have a situation where they're going to feed quite a lot now, and then once they've fed, now they're going to go find a shady area where they'll then go and be able to ruminate. So they're very fortunate in that they are able to ruminate. And for those of you who don't know what ruminating is, it's basically in certain species of herbivores, we have a system where they have a 4-chambered gut, and they're able to regurgitate balls of food that they then chew again and break down so that they can absorb every little bit of nutrients possible. And you end up with a situation where they completely absorb what they eat, and that means that they can have a more efficient feeding pattern. They can feed for less hours of the day and be able to watch out for predators more, and 2, it means that they feed a lot less, so they don't have to sit like the elephants and walk around all day trying to find food. They can actually have periods of rest where they can regurgitate and still gain nutrients, but be resting and not actively searching for food. Now, you may notice that these giraffe are tucking into this bush with abandon at the moment, so they are shoving their head in, tongues are out, and they're pulling lots and lots of leaves off it. But what you'll find is all of a sudden they'll stop and they'll move off. Now, the reason for that is because giraffes are quite susceptible to tannins. So all the trees out here will have tannins, and as they are being fed upon, it's like they're being attacked, and the plant will then send a hormone which will release tannins into the leaves, and it starts to make those leaves quite bitter. And so that's why the giraffe feeds off a certain tree for a while, and then it moves on to another one, and it's the tree's way of defending itself and basically making sure that it's not overutilized and that it still has enough leaves to be able to photosynthesize and grow and become bigger and stronger. And for the giraffe, they don't want to kill off all the trees because it's a food source, so it works quite well. If the tannins come through, it stops them from overeating on that tree, and they move on to the next one, and then in a few weeks' time they come back again, and that tree has got new growth or has grown slightly, and they can then feed off it again. So a very, very clever system. And actually there's a type of tree in this area which is one of the ones they're feeding off, which is called an acacia. And the acacia is a very interesting tree because not only does it secrete these pheromones to be able to increase tannin production, but it will also secrete a pheromone that is passed on the wind, and the wind is then blown onto the next tree, and that tree is able to realize that something is happening, and it will start to produce tannins on its own accord. So even if it's not being fed upon, it will be producing those tannins, and those tannins will then be able to prevent other animals eating it. So the giraffe feeding along get to that tree and it's already quite bitter before they've even started, which is quite incredible. Now, Rebecca, I'm sorry I didn't catch the name for your question, so if you can repeat the name for me. But Tritech, you're wondering if it's true that giraffe have more vertebrae in the neck than humans. High tech. Okay, sorry, Rebecca. They do not. They have the exact same as what we do. They have 7 bones in the neck, same as us, and so they have the same length. They're just very much more extended. There was a debate for a while that they had another one that could have been classified and was then they would have 8, but it's actually that they only have 7, so exact same as all mammals, 7 bones in the neck, and it's just very long extended bones that form their neck. So you can imagine those are quite big, and it's part of the reason why they have such difficulty with being able to drink, because you can imagine with those elongated bones they can't bend nearly as much as what some other animals would be able to, and so like us, I mean, they battle to get their sort of chin to their chest because of the length of those vertebrae. So that's why they've got to spread the legs out to be able to get down. It's also to do with their blood system and the way that the blood flows, and their brains. Obviously they've got a massive heart to be able to pump blood against gravity to the brain, and so the problem with that is when you bend over, you've got a massive issue. So they will try and alleviate the amount of bending that they do and lower their center of gravity by spreading the legs. And then the other side of it is that they'll have various sets of valves going up their main artery to the brain that just restrict blood flow, and then a network of veins at the base of the brain that spread out and form a sort of spongy growth. And so as the blood comes down, it then spreads very quickly over those blood vessels and slows the rate right down, and therefore makes sure that the brain is not damaged in any way and there is no physical problem. And then when they stand up, it stops blood draining too fast that they just don't fall over. But isn't this beautiful? And you can see that little one is watching, it's just looking. Giraffe are very inquisitive animals, so often they'll just kind of look around. And I wonder if maybe they weren't coming and drinking from the seep. So we're at Treehouse Dam, and this is one of the 2 natural seeps that we have in this area that feeds this dam. And so I wonder if the giraffe haven't been around here looking for that natural seep and have been drinking from this really fresh water bubbling up from the ground. And now it's starting to dry out a little bit, and that's why they're not able to find the water that they're looking for. So you see, look, it's looking around trying to see, is there anything coming out here? But alas, nothing at this stage. You might have to drink from the main dam, little boy. Rachel, you're wondering if giraffe ever swim. I have never in my life seen a giraffe swim, ever. And the reason why is probably because of how top heavy they are. They often actually fall over when they try and cross rivers. So for them, it's just too dangerous to try and slip and slide in mud. They're very top heavy, and with those thin, narrow legs, they tend to dig into mud rather than actually get across it quite easily. You find with things like hippos, elephant, rhino that spend time in water, they have very broad, wide feet that allow them to disperse their weight over the mud and then therefore not get stuck. With a giraffe, you would find it will probably get stuck, and so they try and avoid swimming as much as possible. But I have seen them crossing and wading through rivers. The deepest I've ever seen a giraffe wading through was up to its neck through the Sabi River. But I think then the flow starts to get too strong and they actually can't keep up with it, and they get the sort of feeling that they're going to be washed away, and that's why they then don't cross after that. But you can see they're talking about giraffe in water. There we go, we've got a giraffe swimming with its reflection. How's that? Next best thing. But they're very, very relaxed. I'm surprised that this little one actually didn't drink. I think that this little one wanted to drink, but like I say, it just doesn't want to have this dirty water, and it's also a bit unsure. Now we're going to stay with them for a little bit longer and see what they get up to and whether or not they do come to drink. And while we do that, let's go across to Taylor and see how she's doing in her search for these lions.
Well, we're just trying to race and get there as quick as we can. The lions are on the cut line. They're about to cross into Buffelshoek. So I'm trying to get there as fast as I can so that we can, see them for even if it is just 2 seconds. But in order for me to even attempt to do something like that, I have to do a Ferrari safari. It seems as though they did a loop and we thought they were going south. And unfortunately, they were not going south, they were going north. And we were all the way quite far away, but luckily Taxon called us in, and hopefully we'll get there in time. But I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm too hopeful, because they've been walking on the cut line now for quite some time, and I think they want to go into Buffelshoek. They've come already from that side. So I don't know what's going on. How many lions are here? We'll just have to wait to find out. Just need to obviously concentrate as I drive. Let's see. I don't quite know where they are, but they said they were on the climb.
Oh, monotonous laugh. So, welcome back, guys. Sorry, Taylor's going through a little bit of a difficult area. If the lions are up near Buffelshoek boundary, then it's often quite tough there, the signal. So I'm sure we'll get back to her just now when she gets a stable signal. But we're still sitting with our giraffe in this beautiful area with the clouds. You can see they've got a bit of colour on them, and then this water that's just reflecting everything, and these beautiful giraffe that are moving around underneath them. Isn't that a pretty scene? Absolutely stunning. And this little female giraffe is quite curious about us. She's coming quite close. Hello, girl. Crystal, you are wondering whether the giraffe have certain spots on them or different spots depending on the individual, and indeed they do. So each giraffe will have a very different coat. So much like our fingerprints, it's exactly the same. And look at that, giraffe is salivating. So obviously the tree that it was eating was very tasty, or it's very hungry and it knows where a tasty morsel is, but it was salivating. There we go, you can see it dropping out, which is quite amazing. Clean up that mouth, my girl. But she's very curious. She's come very, very close to us and is just standing now in the middle of the road watching us. Hello, little one. So, yes, their patterns are different. They have different spots and markings according to the individual and then according to the species. Now, remember, here in South Africa, we only see this species of giraffe. We only have the southern giraffe. But in other parts, and when we go to the Masai Mara in May, June, then we're going to see different species of giraffe up there. There's the Maasai giraffe. There's the reticulated giraffe. There is varying other species that occur there. So we're going to see slightly different ones, and you'll see the differences in their coats. Their coats are going to be very different, so it will be worth following and being able to then see the different coat patterns later in the year. Hello, girl. So you can see she's just come across to the side now and is starting to feed again. And again, she's onto one of the trees that a lot of animals will really struggle with. Giraffe are lucky. They have a long tongue. It's over 30 centimeters long, and it's kind of a blue-purple color. You can see it there. There it goes. Now, that coloration is like that because they have these rubbery growths all over their tongue, which lacks blood vessels and nerve. It means that they can feed off thorn trees without of those sharp thorns. Now, for us as people, we would have had a real big problem there. We would have the lowest bush possible. But you see how rise, and isn't that beautiful? Now you notice they start moving with the right, the neck then shifts to the left and just balances this giraffe out, which is quite flexible.
Welcome back. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, with it being an overcast day, we had to change up the batteries and we lost stream for a bit, but we're back online. And unfortunately, I've got some further bad news. The lions crossed into Bushwalk. I will tell you though, it's quite also more sad news. I'm sorry, I'm the bearer of bad news today. The lions, the Nkuhuma Pride, have also made a zebra kill. I don't know which zebra that's from, but apparently it's in Bushwalk near Jackal camp, and we suspect that most of the pride is there. It was just 2 lionesses and a Birmingham that were here, but I don't know why they even came this side. They just popped on, or perhaps they come.
So, as you can see, we're still at Treehouse Dam and we're just watching all the things that are going on. It's a very beautiful morning here, and there's a blacksmith lapwing fighting with a piece of grass. Now, I don't know why it's getting so upset with that piece of grass. They don't eat grass, so it may be just looking for some sort of material to line the ground where it would possibly nest, or there's an insect on there that it's managed to get. Now, they generally lay their eggs on open, bare ground, so it would be quite strange if it was getting nesting material. I'm actually not sure why I even said that. It's a ridiculous saying. So, no, they wouldn't use that for nesting material. More like insect that's on the grass that it's trying to grab. You could find that there's maybe a little damsel. They often latch onto grass or varying other insects that might be on there, and that's what it's busy grabbing at the moment. Now it gets its name blacksmith because of the sound that it makes. So it makes this sort of tapping sound, much like a blacksmith hitting his anvil with his hammer, and that's why it's been named blacksmith lapwing. And they're quite pretty birds with that grey and white and black, and they have this red eye, which is quite difficult to see until when the light is not out like it is now. It's a bit grey now, so it's difficult to actually see that red eye, but they do have this beautiful deep red eye as well. Now our giraffe are still here as well. They're still feeding around the dam. Unfortunately haven't come down to drink yet. I was really hoping that they would come down and drink because it's so pretty here and there's this beautiful reflections. It would have been magical to have had them all together in this area feeding, but alas, they are still busy on their trees and just getting the nutrients that they need. So I suppose that no one can argue with that. And isn't it beautiful under these nice little clouds, the puffy clouds that we've got this morning? Now I don't think these clouds are going to last very long at all. By an hour and a half's time, I reckon we're going to see most of these have disappeared. But to start the morning with these sort of beautiful light that we've had, and the giraffe underneath it, is quite spectacular. And you can hear in the distance all the oxpeckers. So the giraffe are covered in birds. They've got these oxpeckers all over them, and those oxpeckers are just there to help keep these giraffe clean. So they're going to be moving up and down the sides of the giraffe with these scissor-like beaks, and they're basically going to pull off ticks. Now you might think that what would a bird be able to do for such a large animal? Oh, hello girls. So two girls that are just coming across the road in front of us now. Good morning. You can see that they are very relaxed. They're busy having a look at us and just seeing what we're doing before they cross over. And I was saying with the birds, you would think that a small little oxpecker wouldn't be able to do much when it comes to such a large animal, but those little oxpeckers are vitally important for something like a giraffe. They will be able to find those parasites, particularly ticks, and remove multitude of them during the day. They reckon that these little oxpeckers can remove between 3,000 and 4,000 larvae of a tick in a day, or up to, oh, gently does it. So you can see they're not very graceful downhill. Sorry, I'll get back to my oxpeckers now, but it's one of the ways that lions will hunt giraffe is by actually chasing them down steep banks. Because of their top heaviness, they end up then falling, and once a giraffe falls, it's much easier for lions to be able to get to that neck than it is when they're standing. So clever lions that hunt giraffe regularly, you'll see they'll try and chase them down steep, thick sandy banks into riverbeds, or down sort of rocky outcrops where it becomes uneven footing and the giraffe ultimately slips and falls. So it's a very clever tactic that lions use. Now in this area, unfortunately, the lions are not very good at that because they've never really hunted giraffe very much and not been taught that by their mothers, and that's why they unfortunately don't hunt them very well. But if you're a giraffe, that's very fortunate indeed. Now, is she going to drink? She looks like she wants to drink, but maybe she's a little bit nervous with us being so close. But she does look like she wants to. Come on, girl. Don't be shy. You can see the little oxpecker riding on the tail area there. So, there we go, come on. It's going to be so beautiful if she does drink with that reflection. It's almost like she's smelling the water just to see, is this water fresh enough to drink? The animals have been spoilt over the last little bit because they've had this rain. There's been lots of nice fresh water everywhere. There's also been lots of water seeping out of varying areas. And so for an animal like this to now go back to this dirty, horrible water is not very pleasant at all. Starlight Tan, you're wondering what is making all the ripples on the water? Well, there's varying things. One is a terrapin, which is swimming near the giraffe there. So you can see those are the quite big ripples that are coming out. So that is like a freshwater turtle that is swimming around. There we go, where the giraffe's neck is bending down. So the giraffe is pointing out our terrapin for us. Thank you, giraffe. That's very kind of you. And there's the terrapin right there where the giraffe's mouth is going. And the other ripples are being caused by hatches of insects. So little mayflies that are coming out, and as they leave the surface of the water, the surface tension as they pull up causes a pull of the water and then a ripple to form, and that's what those smaller little ripples are that you're seeing. It's just insects emerging from the water. So if you were in an area where you had trout fishermen, they would be very excited by this, because emerging insects means trout would generally start feeding, and a fly fisherman would be very happy. So myself and Brent would probably be very ecstatic to see this if we were at a dam where there was trout. Now here's our giraffe drinking. Look there. Isn't that beautiful? That reflection is incredible. And you can see how difficult it is for them to drink. When they bend down, they have to basically bend their legs and spread them wide. And you see how they often flick water like that? So that's because when they bend down, they, unlike us as humans, when we have to actually hold our necks up, and when we relax, our necks flop. A giraffe's neck is actually straight when it's relaxed, so its ligaments are attached in such a way that it actually is not exerting energy by having its neck up, and that's why when they're sleeping, they can sleep with their neck straight up. And they actually have to exert energy and pull their necks down, and so when they do that and they're actually drinking, when they have to come back up again, that force of the releasing the sort of muscles and ligaments means that the neck then pops up and water goes spraying all over the place. But there we go, she's now into it properly. Isn't that beautiful? Very awkward, but very pretty. And this is when also cats would want to hunt giraffe, is when they compromise like this. Before a giraffe knows it, it could be getting jumped on by lions. So that's why they're also nervous when they drink. You find that they'll kind of put their necks down, drink, and then they pop up, look around for a little bit, and then back down again. Hello, good morning, girl. Isn't that beautiful? Look how far she actually throws that water when she lifts her neck, so you can see how quickly that neck shoots back up again. And I never used to believe that that was the case until one day we found a dead giraffe that, unfortunately, it seemed like it had slipped and broken its neck in a river, or drowned from slipping. And we decided to just test this theory, and so we took the giraffe, and it took a few of us to try and bend its neck towards its chest. And as we did that, it was quite tough to get it towards there, and then we let it go, and it almost shot back like a catapult. So it just proved that their necks do naturally stay up, and they have to then exert energy to pull it down like they are doing now. And it was amazing. I didn't think there would be such a sort of powerful amount of muscles that would explode that neck straight back to where it was. That's absolutely beautiful. So, Button's cockatoo, you're wondering that, is it true that a giraffe is the only mammal that has a muscle in their vein that controls blood pressure? So, not actually a muscle. What they have is a series of valves that run up that main artery towards the brain, and those valves will basically slow the rate of flow of blood to the brain. And then they have at the base of the brain, they have a very large network of veins that have spread out. And so what happens when the blood hits that, it's like if you pour water through a funnel, and it will then squirt out if it's compressed through that little funnel. But as soon as it goes out and onto a surface, it then spreads, and the rate of it moving slows right down. And it's the exact same with the giraffe. So as that blood comes into that area, it then just spreads very, very quickly, and that spreading causes the blood flow to slow right down. And so when it goes into the brain, it's then the blood pressure is controlled, but it's not at the jugular. It actually sits at the base of the brain at the back end, so it's not from the jugular side at all. But your theory is correct, though. Wasn't that incredible? Very, very fortunate to be able to see that. And as you were saying, they are actually the only animals that have this ability to control the rate of flow to the brain. Everybody else doesn't have that, so they're very, very fortunate in that they can do that. But without it, they wouldn't be able to survive, so they wouldn't be able to bend the way that they do because of the way that their blood pumps. adult giraffe's blood pressure is double that of a human, so very, very, very powerful hearts. And on an adult male, the heart is weighing over 12 kilograms. So you can imagine a 25-pound heart pumping at double our blood pressure. So the force is really amplified by that, and when they bend down, the force of gravity pulling causes a lot more damage. So they have to have the system in place, otherwise it would be very difficult for them to survive. Now you can see this little boy, look how fluffy his ossicones are. Very cute. And there's one of the little oxpeckers bouncing around and just grooming through that coat. Right, so we're going to probably carry on and leave our giraffe. We managed to get a beautiful sighting of them drinking, and we've had such a nice time just sitting with them. I think while we do that, let's go across to my friend Byron, who's out on foot and is going to be exploring the wilds of Africa using his lower limbs.
Good morning, everybody. And we just found a herd of some Impala and some Inyala in the distance there. My name is Byron, and VM is on camera with me this morning. So we've just got out and we are trying to see what we can find this morning on Bushwalk. It's always nice to see antelope species out in the clearing. And there are a few Impala around, as I mentioned, and then also some Inyala, which you might see they've just moved behind the termite mound actually. And there seem to be some Impala that are stotting. Let's see if they do it again for us. It's when they run around and they jump and they launch themselves in the air and they rock in the air. Watch, there we go. And it's playful behavior. It's also to show that they are fit and healthy. Just through the bush. But anyway, I've also found some tracks already, which I'd like to show you. And there's some very, very clear tracks here. Let me just show you which is the best one, Vium, that you can see. Can you see this one over here? There we go. There's a very clear track. There's the back pad. And 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Now, these tracks, I'm not sure if any of you can guess already what they are. Hopefully you can. But I'll give you a clue. So this track has just got a double lobe at the back. So just one indentation at the back of the pad. The pad is also slightly slanted, which is also a key giveaway, like that. And then the other thing is, even if you only see that part of the track, just those 2 toes, or even just that 1 toe, it's very easy to tell what it is, because these toes are kidney shaped, or bean shaped, I suppose you could say, kidney or bean shaped. They're not completely round. And if you have guessed it already, these are hyena tracks. You can also see little claw marks over there, which you can't see on big cats unless it's cheetah. But lion and leopard, you can't see the claw marks. You just see the round toes. They've got retractable claws, and also, you know, there's that very prominent 3 lobe at the back of the pad. So you'll see 1, 2, 3 lobes. Hyena only have 2, and then those very odd-shaped toes, those kidney or bean-shaped toes, and the clear claw marks that you would be able to see. So this hyena walked through here probably last night, sometime during the course of the evening, looking for food, and it might even be one of the hyenas that go back to the den, just off Philemon's cut line. So Tristan got to see the youngsters yesterday, so this could be one of the adults from that den, and because they are heading in that direction. So possibly just walking around last night looking for food or trying to scavenge. Cat, the biggest track I've seen, well, I think the easy one is obviously elephant. Those are the biggest tracks I've seen. Elephant tracks, those huge big footprints in the sand. The largest lion tracks I've seen have been in a game reserve called Madikwe. It's kind of right north, or the northern part of South Africa, up near the border of Botswana. There, and also in the Kalahari, the Kalahari black-maned lions. Some of you might have heard of them before. They beautiful lions, but they tend to have very large black manes, darker coloration, and it's purely, I think, based on where they are situated or in southern Africa. Apparently it helps with looking more dominant, helps with regulating temperature, and also some people say that the lions with darker black manes have more testosterone. But those big lions, they do have really, really big tracks, and those are the largest tracks I've ever seen of a lion in that Madikwe area, northern part of South Africa, up near Botswana, and then the Kalahari, which is the northwestern part. Now, I've seen male lion tracks. I'm not joking about that size. Now, that is a very large lion track. That's about just bigger than my hand, and usually a big male lion track in this area that I've seen from the Birmingham males and even some of the Majinga lion, the coalition in the south, their tracks would probably be the size of my hand, maybe a bit smaller, just within my hand. It's about the size of their tracks, but I've seen some that are much larger, just larger than my hand, and that's up in those areas. So those are the biggest lion tracks I've seen, and that's impressive. And when you walk in, you start seeing these huge tracks. You get a bit nervous, I won't lie. Nick 1011, there are a number of tracks which would easily be confused, especially to somebody starting out with tracking. The best example I can think of are the antelope tracks. So a lot of the antelope tracks are very, very difficult to distinguish between because they all look similar. They hoofed animals, and an example would be, I'd say, Wildebeest. Just off the top of my head, in this area, probably Wildebeest and Kudu. They generally the same size. Wildebeest might be a bit bigger, but you see the hoof, and that's about it. So the split hoof track. So those could be easily confused by a beginner tracker. There are little things you need to look for, spacing between the hoof, and all sorts. But so that could be one. I'm trying to think of the other animals that we see. What else? Hyena. I think once you get to know the track, hyena you can't mistake for anything else. You can see the toes, you can see the back pad. Maybe if you look quickly at a wild dog track and a hyena track, you might get a little confused, perhaps. But the wild dog track is generally much smaller. What else? Lion and leopard. Some people occasionally, if they see a lioness track, they might confuse it with a big male leopard. But if it's a younger lioness, I mean, even a lioness track is larger than a big male leopard's track. Occasionally, if you find maybe a lioness that's taken her cubs, and you see those little cub tracks, that could be mistaken for a leopard track, or a sub-adult lion could be mistaken for a leopard track. But again, then you just look around and see what other tracks are around. Now, we're going to head to, I think it was Tristan, who's got some Impala. Let's go and have a look and get an update from him.
Almost. Not Tristan, but we very easily get confused out here because both our names start with T's. But no, it's Taylor here actually sitting with the Impala. And there are so many of them, except that they've now just moved off into the thicket to feed. But they were all in the road, and there must have at least been 100 here. I promise I'm not exaggerating this time. There were so many, but of course, as you've seen on a number of different occasions, is that you don't need much vegetation to hide the animals away with all their natural camouflage. But a nice big herd. It's nice actually to not see a bachelor herd. I feel as though the last couple of drives I've hardly seen any young Impala lambs or even the ewes. I've just been seeing all the boys together battling it out. So it's quite nice to see these. And they're very relaxed. They're not being chased around at the moment by any of the males. They're allowed to just feed and will have some peace and quiet. And it's definitely peaceful and quiet out here on Arathusa. Isn't that lovely? And they're all moving off. Oh, now they're running across the road. Oh, let's see if we can get some bounding impalas. Everybody ready? See if anyone's going to leap across the road and try and catch it. Now they've stopped. Come on, guys. Don't start running and then not continue. Normally it starts a trend. When one goes, they all go. Now, Bill, you're wondering if the impala will be going into rut soon. They will indeed. We're actually starting to see it with the big rams now. They're all sort of fighting about each other, testing each other's strength for the breeding herds. And not quite yet, though. I reckon another 2 weeks or so they're going to really be clashing heads quite often. And I'm quite excited to see that. It's one of my favorite times of the year. If you never thought that impala were exciting and you've only just started watching Safari Live, well, you better keep tabs on the impala now, because they're going to become a big part of the show. Watching the boys lock horns, literally fall down to their knees in some points and push heads, chasing other males around, chasing females, making a lot of noise. They're always vocalizing, declaring their territories that way. And it really is so much fun to sit and watch. And I promise you, it's one of the few times you can spend, especially if you're seeing impala every day. They're lovely to watch, but they just eat. And for me, watching something like an animal just eat all the time, it's like watching a flat cat, except if you're an elephant, because then you're doing a lot of things. You're shaking grass, your little ones are playing. But to watch impalas chase each other around is spectacular. And you'll also be surprised at the speeds that these animals are able to reach. Oh, there was a big leap. Let's see if anybody caught that one. That was a sneaky one. I didn't expect that. So quarantine's going to be a lot of fun, because you're going to be able to see at full tilt how these impala go. But they're picking up pace again. Let's see if a little one is going to do a bit of a hop, skip, and a jump. Oh, come on, over the road. Who's going to be brave enough to leap the whole length of the road? Here comes a ewe coming in. She's slowing down. No, go. No, she didn't want to do it either. There's a couple more coming from the back. I was hoping we were going to get leaping impala, loads of leaping impala. Come on, guys. Buttons Cockatoo. I really enjoy hearing that name first thing in the morning. It brightens up my day. Now, you're wondering if there are any other types of impala out there, or is it only this one in the family? We sort of get different color variants now. It's a big trend in South Africa. Well, it was. The trend seems to be dying a little bit. It's to breed animals that have strange genetic mutations, and in that genetic mutation is typically targeting the pigment. So there's black-faced impala. They're literally... What just scared you guys? Something just gave these impala a fright. They didn't, of course... Sorry, I'll get back to your question now. Now they look relaxed. All I could hear, it sounded like a wave, an ocean, from all of them shuffling in the grass pretty quickly. It might have been a bird or something that startled one, and then there's a chain reaction with animals that live in a herd. They all start to panic. So sorry, Buttons. So you get black-faced impala, and then I've seen golden impala. What else do we get? I think there's probably a couple of other color variants too that I'm not aware of, but they breed them and then they sell them, and it's like a trend. So some people may buy sports cars, some people may buy lots of property, depending what your thing is. But in South Africa, it's a big trend to own lots of animals, whether you're breeding buffalo, breeding sable, roan antelope, rhinos, whatever it may be. But finding golden wildebeest, black-faced impala is an amazing thing to have. The black-faced impala you can actually see out here, and I saw one down in the southern sector of the Sabi Sands. I may even have a photo of it. I went out to go and photograph it again, which was quite nice. I'll see if I can maybe find that picture. Otherwise, I'll just have to search one on the interweb for you. But they really, really do have a very, very black face. And they have it a little bit. You can see around their eyes, it's darker, but it's very much prominent on a black-faced impala. But typically, like genetic mutations when it comes to the coloring of animals, they're not very common out in the wild, because as soon as you start moving away from the natural tones of the browns, the blacks, a little bit of white, they start to stick out. It's like white lions. They stand out like an absolute sore thumb in the vegetation. Out in the low veldt, even down in the Eastern Cape, you can spot them from kilometers away. And that's not good. That's the one main defense that all of these animals have, and that is natural camouflage to blend into the vegetation that surrounds them. So as soon as you lose that, you become a big target for leopards, lions, and any other predators too. But thank you, Impala. Oh, wait, we've got 2 more contenders. Please jump. Big jumps, please. No, just running really quickly. Aw, okay, next time. We'll get them next time. Let's go to the airstrip and see what we can find on the airstrip. Now, I don't know if I have comms. I'm just checking. I just the beep. Now, Michael, you were wondering how long before the lambs will have to leave their the herds that they're bred into. It depends. I haven't seen some of the. I've still been seeing some of the young males. The girls will stay with the females for most of their life. They'll live in one big herd, and the boys, it's normally about a year and a few months. I suppose you'd probably say a year and a half before they're truly told to back off and go on their way. So we've still got a while. We've probably got another few weeks before they won't be tolerated, and you'll start to see a lot of those young rams all joining up together, forming little herds. Now I can see Gnorman the Gnu of Arathusa Airstrip standing in the very far distance, but I don't know where his friends are. There he is. We'll go around. We have to do the scenic way around, but we'll get there eventually to go and say hello to him. But he's got no herd accompanying him today. Very quiet. It's okay, Wildebeest. We'll come and keep you company. And then we'll search the grass on that side as well, because that is the area where the jackals like to lay. So maybe they are just laying flat in the grass. They're also, those side-striped jackals blend into the grass very, very well. Now, you can see that the grass is very short around the airstrip. This is not necessarily just because the animals are grazing, but at an airstrip you need to make sure that you keep it clear and flat, and you can see, a fair distance on either side. So all airstrips will mow a massive clearing on either side, and well, you don't want a rhinoceros or an elephant or a buffalo, perhaps running across the road when an aeroplane's about to land. We've seen that. I've seen that with warthogs before. We've gone chasing after warthogs. I've chased after buffalo because the next minute one buffalo bull comes charging through the bushes, and you've checked the airstrip 77 times, and then one will come in. Oh my goodness. And then the plane is landing and you're in your car and you're racing down the airstrip trying to prevent this thing from going onto the road. And I mean, you can imagine a buffalo could cause a huge accident. But even something as small as a bird getting stuck in an aeroplane, that would cause a lot of trouble too. So you really do have to make sure that these airstrips are clear before anybody comes landing. Like Gnorman, we'd have to put a car and make sure that you don't come charging this side. But luckily I don't think they're expecting any aeroplanes landing. Always good to check as well. Right. Let's have a quick scan. No elephants just yet. No elephant tracks on Arathusa today, which is unusual, because the last time that I was here, I think that is all I saw. I just saw elephant after elephant, and every time I tried to leave to go back to Djuma, another elephant would pop up and go back into Arathusa, so I'd have to follow it. Not have to, because I wanted to follow it. Alright. Any new birds? Just the usual suspects of birds flying around. We've got lots of lilac-breasted rollers, European rollers, dusky larks, and a couple of crowned lapwings. Okay, we're going to keep searching. We're going to go across to the other side of the airstrip now and try our luck there. But I'm going to send you across now to Tristan and to see if he's had any luck with finding the royal family.
Well, we haven't had any luck with the leopards just yet. We are still looking around, still checking. You never know. You've got to keep your eye out all over the place here, and we haven't checked everywhere yet. We've got a bit waylaid with our giraffe. We're so nice spending time with them around Treehouse Dam that we haven't really done too much this morning. So we're going to carry on our search now. We're going to look around and try and see what we can find. Oh, that's pretty. Hello, little Kudu. Sorry, Rusty's brakes are a little bit squeaky. And you can see there's a beautiful female kudu on top of her termite mound. So she's sitting on top there. And the reason why she'll be up there is twofold. One is because she's going to be getting a beautiful view of the surrounding areas, which means that if there's any predators around, she's going to be able to spot them from up there. And the second is that kudu and varying other herbivorous animals will utilize termite mounds a lot. And the reason why is because the termites, when they build their mound, they make it out of their feces, their saliva, and particles of soil. So it's basically like mixing compost in, and so the plant material that grows there generally is a lot more nutritious than anything else, and so it's a great place to be able to feed. You can see all the grasses growing on there. Now, you'll find buffalo, elephants, rhinos, kudu, impalas, nyalas, all going up onto termite mounds to feed, as well as to use it for a place where they can see what's going on. And we've got our ever-present oxpeckers on the back of that kudu, and this will not be the only kudu here. Female kudu generally are in small groups together, so I'm sure she's got some company. We just need to find where she is, or where the rest are. Maybe they've trotted off into the bush when we came along, and she was just brave enough to stay on top. Isn't she spectacular? And look at that, isn't that nice, with the bird sitting between her ears? Now it's going to go into her ears, which will probably drive her mad. You can imagine how uncomfortable it must be to have a bird in your ear, pecking at your ear all day long. Not very pleasant at all. So you'll see every now and then she'll shake her head, and there we go, and twitch her ears to try to keep the birds off. Now they do have spectacular ears for an antelope. They've got these massive ears in relation to the size of their head. And that's because of the areas that they like to inhabit. They like thick, dense bush areas where it's very difficult to see. So those big ears mean that they can catch a lot more sound, and they're then able to locate on any predators and stay nice and safe. Oh, pecking at the eye. That can't be comfortable. Naughty oxpecker. There we go, she had enough. Now that's a little baby oxpecker. You can see, look, its beak is very dark in comparison to the oxpecker at the back. The oxpecker at the back's got that bright red beak with a yellow eye, and this little oxpecker is still dark and hasn't got its coloration yet. But very, very cool. Very, very nice indeed. Lovely. We'll leave her to enjoy her morning on her mound. So Lara Moore, you're wondering how Kudu's face markings differ from that of a Nyala. Now, the best way to do this is just to show you. They actually don't differ too much at all. I'm just trying to get them both out for you. Right, so here's the Nyala, and we've got, let's look at the male Nyala. You can see that it's got the white bars, exactly like a Kudu will have, but theirs tend to be a lot brighter because it's contrasted against this dark face. And then you see they've also got the spots, and then that white mouth with quite large ears. Now the Kudu, in comparison, as you can see here, they also have that white, then the white mouth and the white stripe. So very, very similar. It's just that they have a lighter sort of coloring, and so it doesn't stand out nearly as much. Also, you find with the male kudu, so the ones that are over on this side of the page, if you look here, their bar tends to join and it doesn't become as sort of pronounced as two bars. So you see it goes right across the eye area, whereas if we turn back towards the Nyala, they tend to have a sort of distinct line between the two, but it's not always like that. It does vary from Nyala to Nyala and Kudu to Kudu, but generally you find the Nyala's got these two little lines, whereas the Kudu's a sort of straight bar across in the males. But otherwise very, very similar. They are of the same family, so they are very, very similar animals, and they both look quite closely related. Now, interestingly enough, the bushbuck and the eland, which are the other two members of this family, they don't have those bars across the eyes, and the reason why the eland doesn't have it is because the eland lives in areas that are more open grassland areas, and therefore it doesn't actually have to have that. Now that white is there to be able to bring light into the eye, and that's why they have it, so they have the light markings. Now if you have a look in this dung in front of us, it's quite pretty that there are a few little fungi that are growing out of there. So you see the little white ones? Now they look like Japanese umbrellas that have aged a little bit, unfortunately, and are falling over, but that's the name for them. They get called a Japanese umbrella, and they do grow out of elephant dung like this. And you can see where they get the umbrella name from. There's the one on the left. Look, it's just like a little umbrella. Very cool, isn't it? Amazing. So it's basically, again, a big pile of fertilizer, and that's why the fungi grow out of there. It's a great place for them to grow, and you'll find that they'll drop spores, and the spores will then start to grow up and you end up with a colony of them like this. Amazing. Very nice. So there's beauty even in a pile of dung, which is nice. Now, let's carry on and see. I'm hearing reports of female leopard tracks now. I wonder if maybe Karula is back. Wouldn't that be spectacular if we saw her? I know everybody has been very worried about Karula because we haven't seen any sign of her. She's been very elusive, very quiet, so I'm hoping that those tracks are for her. We're definitely going to try and head towards that area and see if we can maybe find her. It will be interesting because it is in an area where we do see shadows sometimes as well, so hopefully it's Karula, but let's see. Maybe it will be shadow as well. But if it is Karula, I really think it will put a lot of minds at ease, because a lot of people were saying that she's been missing for 3 weeks, she's been leaving her cubs, maybe she's dead, and I think she's still going strong. I just think she's been up to something, and maybe all will be revealed if we do find her as to where she's been and where she's come from, because that's the more interesting, pertinent question, is actually where she's come from, because nobody knows where she's been and where she's actually been hiding. So if she comes from a certain area, then we'll know that that's where she's been for the last few weeks, and it will sort of help us decode the mystery that we've had. Right, so we're going to carry on and see if we can get into the area of these tracks, and while we do that, let's go across to Byron and see what he's busy with on this beautiful morning in the African bush.
Now, we're still walking around, just having a look. The flies are everywhere at the moment. I have not had this many biting flies on me for a long time. Don't know why there's so many. It's not like I didn't wash, I promise I did. So I don't know. But there have been some animal activity around. We've seen some fresh elephant tracks just behind me, heading in this direction, so I'd love to find some elephant. There's a wonderful old mud wallow over here just next to us. This hasn't been used for a while, but you can see during the rainy season, well, earlier in the month probably, or last month, it was still watery, and a lot of animals use this. Buffalo, elephant, you can see they're all wallowed in here. But hang on a second, there's something else we've just found on foot. Follow me. I'm going to try to keep quiet, so I'm going to sneak past the bush over here. Hopefully they don't run from us. Let's see if we can get a glimpse of them. Here we go. A herd of zebra. Oh, that's great. And they seem quite relaxed with us on foot. That's very, very nice. I can hear the buttoned quail calling in the grass close to those zebra. That woo, woo. Very interesting sound from that buttoned quail. Small little bird that makes such a loud noise. But you see, these zebra are doing what I wish I could do. See how their tails are flicking about backwards and forwards, and they are doing that to chase the flies off of themselves. And I wish I had a tail at the moment to keep these flies off of me, because they are everywhere. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Come on, follow me. They seem to be very relaxed with us. They definitely know we're here. I'm speaking at a level that they can hear us and they can see us. Oh, this is great. I honestly think this is one of the closest I've ever got to, or closest situations I've ever got to zebra. Have a look at it. Nice, out in the open. See if we stop, they might just stand and carry on feeding. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that amazing? This is very, very nice. Flies. See those tails, they don't stop. There are a lot of flies around those zebra. Sammy, you're asking about the injured zebra. Now, I'm not sure. There were 2 injured zebra. There was one that we saw, I think they saw about a week and a half ago on quarantine. That was very badly injured. And then there was another one found on Arathusa, I think, that also very badly injured. Neither of them have been seen again. No, I'm not. I mean, I don't know if they're still alive. Apparently, the one on quarantine was very badly injured. But that's nature. We need to remember that it's survival of the fittest. It's not always easy to see, but lions occasionally injure animals. They aren't able to kill them, and those animals will probably die a few days later. And it is survival of the fittest out here. As I say, I know it's not always easy to see, but that is nature's way of maintaining a balance. And some animals will benefit from that meal, even if it wasn't the lions. But there'd be hyena, there'd possibly be leopard that scavenge off big kills like that. So other predators, the jackal, other predators would definitely benefit from it. Nothing goes to waste out here. Blogs by Natty. I'm just trying to think now. The average lifespan of a zebra, I think, is around 20 years. It may be a bit more. I stand to correction. I've always said that these animals live until lions catch them. it's not always nice, but it's true. Very few animals, other than like rhino and an elephant, very few animals tend to live out their full lifespan and die from natural causes or old age, because once they get to a certain age, they're not as quick, not able to run away and stay away from predators. So they'll often get hunted before they die from natural causes. But I think a zebra is somewhere around 20, 25 years. But I'll double check for you, or maybe one of the viewers can see if you see. The other thing is, I think a lot of the time these ages are varied, and they probably studied from animals that live in zoos, and that's not a fair. I think a fair estimate of their lifespan, because in zoos animals don't have the stress of running around or running away from predators, having to look for food or water. So I mean, in some books, I don't know how accurate the estimate is, but if some of you can let me know, see what you come up with, and the age of zebra. I'm curious now, but I think from what I've seen, probably 20, 25 years, and I wonder what the difference is between zebra and horses. And again, horses are raised by people, so they probably live a lot longer than a wild animal like a zebra. But I wonder if there's a correlation between the two, or how close they are. I'm going to try and find something to get rid of these biting flies. Let's head to Taylor, who's got a wildebeest.
Byron, the only thing that works is elephant dung. I am pro elephant dung for everything. So you just need to find yourself a lighter to ignite it, and then you'll have the perfect way to stop the biting flies. Now, we've finally come across our friend the wildebeest, who's been marching up and down the airstrip. Shame, I think he's a little bit on the lonely side at the moment. But he also seems to be busy. He's not eating. He's walking around, marking territories. Now, Kitek, you're wondering why this specific species of wildebeest we're looking at is called the blue wildebeest. And you know what? I have yet to really realize this. So I've heard many different stories. Some say that the blue wildebeest's dung has a shimmer of blue in it. Have not seen that. I've looked at different angles, hold it up to the light to see no blue. I don't see blue. And then, of course, they also say that their coats look a little bit like a dark blue. Never seen that either. They do definitely have a sheen, but it's not blue, unless I suppose I'm just seeing a different color spectrum. So I'm not certain, and I don't know why they've been given that name, if it's because of those two reasons. I don't see it, but you'll have to, when you come to South Africa, have a look at them for yourselves, as well as have a look at the dung. But that's the thing out here. Well, actually, it's quite funny because it's like the black wildebeest too. And let me tell you, so my favorite wildebeest species must be the black wildebeest, they're quite small, and their horns point forward rather than curving in, and they've got this tuft of hair. It looks like they've got a mohawk between their eyes and their snout standing up, and then their tail is white. Why is that called the black wildebeest when it's got a white tail? I'd probably call it the white-tailed wildebeest or something along those lines, but then also I just try to be logic, but it's just my opinion. I think actually some people do call it the white-tailed wildebeest, but the proper name for it is a black wildebeest. But those guys are funny. They run around, they're really little, it's like they have a serious temper as well. They're always charging at other animals. We saw a lot of them down in the Eastern Cape. They're really funny to watch. But blue wildebeest, also quite lovely, especially the ones that hang around on the open area in front of our camp. That herd has to be my favorite, and that bull is really funny too. Yesterday he was charging at elephants, I think, thinking that there was a wildebeest bull trying to encroach on his territory, which there wasn't. I think he was a bit shocked about that, and he just always does the most hilarious things. But you can see him, he's not eating at the moment. He literally is just walking the boundary of his territory, just checking around, sniffing. You can see his nose is hard at work at the moment. He's got a big stretcher. He goes from one side of the airstrip to the other. Look at that. Nose working overtime at the moment. He's got different middens and trees that he'll mark against. And of course, we've seen it many times now where he uses his pre-orbital glands to mainly scent mark. And then, of course, as he's moving around, the pedal glands in their feet is also leaving its scent. So you'll often see him scraping on the ground with his feet, kicking up quite a bit of dust, not necessarily having a dust bath, but just trying to mark his territory. But we've got some warthogs too. Should we go have a look at some warthogs? Bye, wildebeest. He's gone very far away from us. I can see three or four pigs. There's more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now they've multiplied. There's 5 warthogs. When they all stand behind Mom, it looks quite difficult. So just from the distance, it looks like a big sow and her piglets, who are no longer little piglets anymore. They're almost sub-adults. They're so large. Let's see how relaxed she is. Crowned lapwings flying around, shouting at me as I will disturb them. Right. Have you got a jackal? Warthogs and a jackal. There we go. Craig and I were actually talking about finding the jackals, and we were all talking about finding the jackals. Let's see what's going to happen now. The one little pig seems to be quite keen on going up to say hello to the jackal. I don't think the jackal is so excited, and the reason that the jackal needs to be careful is it's not going to take one of those warthogs, because if one of them let off even a slight squeal, Mom is going to go charging over, and she could quite easily gore that jackal to death with her tusks. And I think this jackal knows that, is that there's no point trying to mess with Mom and her piglets, because you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. And the Impala are all coming bounding out of the bushes. Look down the airstrip. They're all leaping away. They're now running. I don't know if it's because of the ram that is chasing them. He's coming across the airstrip now. He's pronking. Look at that. Woo! Look how beautiful and fit I am. Look at me go. Yes, he's now chasing after a female. Oh, that's cool. Oh, well, at least we got to see that. Okay, everything, it's just taking a bit longer, but all the things that I've said that I want to see, I've almost got them. We're almost there. Oh, look at those 2 little pigs having a little play. Those ones on the right, look at them. And this is also what's so funny about these young animals. At this age, they are getting playful. They're doing all sorts of wonderful things, pushing each other on the snouts, going down on their legs. Look, go, go, go! Look how excited they are. All their mane is now sticking up. Oh, this is wonderful. And you've got one that's just said, no, I'm not playing him. I'm just going to have a quick nap. I think that's what that warthog is saying. And sibling is saying, no, wake up. I also want a partner to push around. Isn't it nice to have siblings? I don't know how I would have survived if I grew up as an only child. I think I would have been very bored. It was always nice to have my brother around to play with and boss, basically just to boss him around when he was little. But now he's much bigger than I am, so he bosses me around, and I just say, yes, sir. Whenever he says anything to me, I don't disagree with him anymore. He can just pick me up and put me where he'd like to. In the cupboard, lock me in my room. It's tough when boys get big. But how lovely is this? I love warthogs. They're really funny to watch. I haven't seen warthogs playing in a very, very long time. So hopefully they give us a good game and start running around, and they will. They'll chase each other. They are extremely playful animals. And if you all remember, we had a pig named Emma down in the Eastern Cape, and one of her favorite toys was a soccer ball. You can imagine why, because it's round and it rolls and it moves quickly. So it grabbed her attention. She just loved it. She chased it around all day long. You could kick it for her and she'd run after it. She didn't bring it back. She wasn't quite trained in fetch, but she just liked to mow it over all the time. Oh, that's lovely. Little one going over to say hello to Mom. Oh, look at that interaction. Munching on the grass. Now, Buttons, you're wondering if it's true that warthogs will eat bugs. If you're talking about the Lion King, that's hysterical. So I haven't actually ever seen warthogs feeding on grubs and things like that. I don't think that it's impossible. I think if they get desperate, they may. You know who does eat a lot of protein in the form of an insect is a bush pig. So we don't get bush pig up here, but you'll often see bush pig on carcasses scavenging. They're not necessarily going for the meat, but they're going for the maggots, which are full of protein, and of course they infest carcasses. So you'll see bush pigs doing that. But I have yet to see warthogs doing something along those lines. They love marula fruits. That's actually something we didn't get to see, but I saw it very much down in the southern sector of the sands when we were experiencing the drought and there was no grass. And all the trees around the lodge are often the first trees to drop their fruits. And I think it's just because of the high water sort of table that is normally associated around the lodges. And you'd get all the warthogs, big old boars coming through and snatching up all of those fruits. And it was really funny to watch them eat the fruit. I missed that. Would have been nice to have seen these little pigs try and put a big marula fruit in their mouths. I think they would have struggled a little bit. But down on their knees they go using their hard snouts to dig up the grass roots. See if they are feeding on the grass roots or if they're actually just cropping the grass. I have noticed they don't seem to dig, and we were talking about this yesterday, they don't dig up the grass as much as they do in the Eastern Cape. And perhaps that's just because of the soil type and the type of grass that grows here. Well, this is lovely to have 5 warthogs, a jackal, some Senegal lapwings, some crowned lapwings, all in the same area and not really too bothered by each other. Isn't that lovely? And there's our friend the jackal. Maybe we'll try and get a little bit closer in a moment. But that jackal doesn't look calm. I mean, looks lovely and relaxed, having a groom. And that's nice, and it feels comfortable enough to sit near a group of warthogs. Again, yes, they are herbivores, but they can turn on you in any second. And for them to be so relaxed around a predator. Now, James Richard, you're wondering if black-back jackal and side-striped jackal share the same breeding season. Oh, my goodness, James, I don't know. I'm going to have to pull out a book for this one. I'm going to look. Let's watch Mom. Mom has spotted the jackal. Oh, she's staring at it. Now, hopefully she's going to chase it away. Let's see, she's approaching it now. I'm going to just try and find jackals in my book, and we'll have a look together. Yes, you can see the jackals going, oh, hang on. No, I'm going to go this way. I'm not racing off. I think they see each other on a regular basis here, the Impala, the jackals, the warthog family, the wildebeest. And I suppose when you're hanging around with each other on a regular basis, you learn from each other. And they just seem as though they're not too bothered anymore. We're gonna get back to your question in a moment, James, so don't think. I'm going to have a look at quickly in my book, and we're going to stay with the warthogs and the jackals. But Tristan has finally found a spotted cat.
Oh my gosh. So, as you can see, we've managed to catch up with this leopard. So we have Shadow that's busy walking through here. It's not Karula like we hoped it would be, but still, it's nice to see Shadow. I wonder where she's off to. She's going probably into a horrible area. It really is very, very dense and very thick in here. So we're going to try keep up with her, but it seems like she's marching her way straight back into Simamili, Arathusa, that area. And like I say, going straight through the thickest bush possible, which is very typical of Shadow. But nice to see her. She's looking healthy and well. I don't think there's any sign of the little ones this morning. There was no tracks for the little ones. So it looks like just her, and she was trying to hunt some impala apparently when the guys found her, which is great that she was looking for food. It means that maybe she'll slow down for us a little bit. Isn't she beautiful? Look, there we go, she's stopped. Really pretty leopard. Like I say, she's looking very, very healthy. She could do with a meal, but otherwise looking good. You can see the little white tip of that tail wagging. Very, very pretty girl. Now let's see where she's going to go from here. I'm sure she's going to go straight west again. That's where she's been hanging around mostly in the last few weeks. So I'm sure that's where she's heading. But there might be some sort of prey items. Just careful your head there, Ferg. So there might be some duiker or steenbok that will be hanging around in here, which would be the perfect prey items for Shadow. That's what she would like to go after. So hopefully she's going to come across something and start to stalk, because that'll mean that we'll then be able to spend a lot more time with her. If she keeps walking the way she's going to walk now, she's going to be onto Triple M in the next 2 minutes, and then she's going to be crossing out of our area and where we can't follow her, which will be sad. And unfortunately it's typical Shadow though, the way that she does do this. I'm just trying to get out onto the road in front here because she's right here. So here we go. There we go. Onto Triple M as is normal with Shadow. And from here... Oh, is that another leopard in the distance? There was a hyena. And there we go. Now hopefully she's going to walk straight down. Now it looked like there was maybe another leopard or a hyena that just crossed south of us here. I couldn't see nicely what it was. It just disappeared into the grass. So I'm going to try and see when we go forward here if maybe we will be able to see it. Now she's going to do a bit of scent marking. Miss Sky, you wondering when her cubs were last seen? Just trying to think now when exactly they were last seen. They were seen about 3 weeks ago, I think, and around the same time Karula was last seen actually. But there has been tracks since then. Look at her up on her back legs, busy scent marking and sniffing. Isn't that cool? And there's that flim and grimace, so she's busy pulling in the scent that she's picked up into the roof of her mouth to be able to analyze that scent. Amazing. And a little shake. So about 3 weeks ago was the last time she was seen, but tracks of the cubs with her, I had them last week. So the one cub is all I had in terms of the tracks. So hopefully she's going to be marching her way towards wherever she's keeping the cubs at the moment. I'm just giving her a bit of space because I don't want to drive right behind her and then she crosses into Simambili, because we won't be able to follow her there. So I'm hoping that she's going to keep going southwards towards Arathusa side. It looks like she's still got a bit of milk in that tummy, so that's good news. It means that she is producing milk, which is great. Just got to update the guys on the other channel, because otherwise they aren't going to know that she's here, and she's such an elusive leopard at times that it's difficult. Is there any station in the west that copies? If any station can copy me, there's Shadow, there's Mobile South on Triple M North. She's just gone south of the old cut line for Simambili Arathusa, going towards the new cut line. And there she goes, straight down the same road she always takes. So she loves to take this road here. And off she goes. I'm just going to roll forward because there's a vehicle behind us so that they can also have a little look. And isn't that beautiful? Let's see if she's going to stop there now. Look at her tail. The tails are so expressive on leopards. That's what, when they see something and they stop and you find the tail starts to twitch a little bit, it's something that they've noticed. Absolutely incredible. So, John B., you're wondering what Shadow's identifying marks are. John B., I honestly cannot tell you. I just know her from seeing her so often that her face is recognizable for me. I don't know, it's a light nose. She's got that very pink nose, which is unusual for an adult. And then just her sort of very round, small face. And I don't know, when I see her, it's very difficult not to know anybody else. It's the same with Tundi. It's just you see them instantly and you know. I'm sure some of the viewers will be able to help us. So for the viewers out there that do know their identifying or distinguishing features, you can send them through to #SafariLive and we'll be able to discuss them. Since Shadow has now disappeared, and I don't think we're going to be able to follow her where she's going to go now. So I will